everyone, I am Stephanie, an artist living in Vannes, France. In today's video you will be seeing a time-lapse of my most recent illustration or painting, drawing, watercolor, ink, whatever that is, of a rainbow forest. Now, when I work with watercolors, I always do a full ink drawing first. That's just how I like to work. Usually I use a simple dip pen and ink, but this time I wanted to try a fountain pen. Now, I got this fountain pen for when I travel, as traveling with a dip pen and ink is not something very practical. It's actually pretty difficult, maybe even impossible. Now, traveling, of course, has been out of the question this year and most likely will be still out of the question for a good year to come. But I really wanted to try this fountain pen regardless. Now, I should note that the ink I used is pigmented ink, and on top of that it's an ink made waterproof through the use of shellac, so it's a plastic-free ink. I love that ink. I've been using that ink for years now. However, you're not supposed to use that type of ink in fountain pens, so no pigmented inks in fountain pens, because they can easily clog the pen and then destroy it. So I knew that. However, I really wanted to try it with that ink anyway, because if I'm going to use a fountain pen, then I want to be able to use my waterproof ink. Otherwise, what's the point, really? And so as expected, after some time, the ink would not flow as well anymore. So what I did was to simply put the nib into some water. And that was just enough to keep the ink flowing and avoid clogging. I did that maybe once a day, maybe twice a day, so not a lot, but that was sufficient to keep the ink flowing and nothing clogged. Now, I have been using that pen every day since I added the ink to it, be it to just write something down, but usually to continue the drawing. However, it's probably safest to clean it thoroughly and entirely when you don't plan to use it for a while, and I really have to do that once I don't have any ink in the pen. So I have to then clean it completely, let some water run through and put it away just so it doesn't clog, because I really would like to keep that fountain pen pristine for when I travel. I actually used what is called a converter for the fountain pen. So basically it is a cartridge that you can turn, and you simply put the nib into some ink, some bottle ink, you turn the converter and then the ink goes into that cartridge. So that's really good, less waste, and you can use whatever ink you like best. I don't know if that converter works on any type of fountain pens or if it's specific to that brand. I actually still have one fountain pen from when I was at school, so we'll try and see, because then you can kind of trash less expensive fountain pens if you'd like. The fountain pen that I bought is plastic-free, or mostly plastic-free. It's made out of metal and wood mostly, as I try to avoid buying plastic when I can, because most of the time you really can't avoid plastic. So when I can, I prefer the other option. Also, I think a fountain pen made out of wood is really beautiful, and that specific pen is, it's pretty gorgeous. It was a bit on the expensive side. It's from Faber-Castell, and I bought it myself, so it's not sponsored of any way. I searched for some, and I found this one and got the converter with it to go with it, and I'm quite happy I did. It's an interesting way to work. However, when working in a studio, I'm not so sure. Now, as you know, I'm usually a big fan using a dip pen and ink, and this fountain pen actually confirmed that preference. It was not nearly as fun to use as a dip pen. I'm not too sure why, but when I use a dip pen, you just feel more in the moment. There's some kind of focus. You need to be careful with the ink. You're really there. And I also feel like a dip pen is kind of elegant. It sounds a bit cheesy, but just like the flow, the gestures, there's some beauty into it, and I really like that. So next time I'll probably go back to dip pen and ink. However, again, the fountain pen is, with its converter, is a great companion when traveling the world, or just the park nearby. I also asked for a proper ink cleaner for Christmas, just to be sure to have something that cleans the pen more thoroughly if I ever just forget to take proper care of it and it starts clogging. Now, the drawing itself is of a forest, and in the forest are 2 buildings. These are actual existing buildings where I live, and that specific building has been on my to-do list for years. Basically, since we moved into our current house. So I'm really happy and excited that I finally put it into one of my illustrations. You might remember me doing some tree studies a few weeks ago. At that time, I just wanted to use green and do trees, but the forest just kept making rounds in my head. I really got obsessed with forests. Now, trees and forests are really difficult to sculpt, as the forest is more of a mood than an object. It's really about the environment and the darkness, and you see the trunks and everything. So that forest obsession had to find a way out, and this painting came to be. Now, for a moment, I thought about a more realistic forest, but just thinking of doing only green, realistic forest was a bit bland to my taste. Also, I really like to create a different world in my artworks, a world that is usually void of humans, but that is extremely lush, colorful, beautiful, and vibrant. I hadn't worked in a rainbow for a while either, for no good reason, to be honest. So yeah, the theme quickly imposed itself to me. I wasn't too sure about this one, so I did a few small quick studies to see if that would work. And here we are, adding splashes of colors. A cheerful apocalypse. Now, for the colors I use, they're all from different brands, and I don't really have a stable palette. I tend to create a palette with the colors I need for given artwork. I have been experimenting a lot with new pigments and colors lately. I blame YouTube and my boredom of being at home all the time. I just want new colors and try new things. I still feel so juvenile when it comes to watercolors, as if everything still needs to be learned and tested out. It's quite fun, to be fair. And yeah, I've been testing a lot of different things in my sculptural work as well, so it's not just watercolors, it's the modeling clays. I just feel like an adolescent sometimes in my artwork, but it's a good thing. It means that I still see a lot of room for improvement, and that's quite exciting. So yeah, in short, these days I am trying many different pigments, clays, techniques to refine my work, but also just to find what feels best to my practice. I've also been trying to use watercolors in my sculptures, and I have a few leads and possibilities in my head, and I really would like to combine those two more in the future. Honestly, doing art is a never-ending process and evolution. You keep researching and refining and trying to find the right way, and there's no right way, so it never ends. Talking about pigments and watercolors, I recently discovered Payne's Gray, which has simply been off my radar for far too long. It's a bluish, very dark gray, almost black. I used it for the trees in this painting. I got the Payne's Gray from Sennelier simply because that's the best watercolor brand at my local art supply store, and I really like it. It's not a monopigment, there are actually 3 pigments in there, but I can see that color in a lot of my future palettes. I won't replace my black though. I do love using a dark matte black in my illustrations as a stark contrast to the other colors. Also, remember when I did the huge color chart, I realized my favorite, most vibrant magenta is also from Sennelier, so I might really have to look into a few more colors of that French brand later on. I still have a lot of watercolor stock, and yeah, I might have asked for a few more colors for Christmas, so I don't want to buy more before I use them. I find it quite discouraging to have too many art supplies that I don't use around the studio. It just makes me feel guilty and completely overwhelmed. I'm not sure if you understand what I mean by that, but yeah, I prefer to have just the right amount of things around, so I have choice and a lot of colors, but not too much, as I just don't know where to start. On the note of watercolors and pigments, I have recently discovered a YouTube channel that I love to watch, which is Denise from In Liquid Color. She's a great teacher about pigments and watercolor mixing, and I also watch her Skillshare class. If you're interested in watercolors, I can only recommend her. She has this great series on YouTube, Color Spotlight, where she highlights just one color, usually one pigment, and explains how this one works, differences across brands, and best color mixes. Honestly, such a useful series and saves you so much time. She refers a lot to the website Handprint, which I adore, and she seems super friendly too. Some of the pigments she uses a lot went actually straight to that Christmas wish list I was talking about before. So yeah, I will see if I like them, if I get them. I certainly learned quite a lot watching her videos. Now just a note about brushes. I've been trying synthetic brushes for this painting, but also a huge squirrel mop brush that was on sale on Rosemary brushes. The squirrel mop was meant for an art school, but I'm guessing with the whole COVID situation, that order was cancelled. And anyway, I got my hands on one of these huge things at, well, a really good price. I probably have no clue how to use it properly because I have no training, but it certainly is a huge brush, and yeah, I think I see possibilities with that brush in the future. As for the synthetic brushes, I was surprised on how much I actually like them. So far I've been mostly using Kolinsky brushes and haven't quite made my mind on real hair versus synthetic. I mean, on one side, I'm not too keen on animal exploitation, as you might know that, but I'm mostly vegan. But on the other hand, I'm not very keen on plastic production either, so it's really one of those gray areas where I'm just not sure. So now I just try randomly what feels best when painting. And I have to say, I ended up using mostly the synthetic brush on this painting. But it might also be because it's new and so the point is still in great shape. Now we are nearing to the end of the video and also to the end of 2020. I don't know yet if I will be doing another video before the year is ending, so just in case I don't, I would like to wish you all the best for next year. I know 2020 has been rough for most of us, if not all, and I'm not sure 2021 will be that much better. I still wish you all the best, and I hope you can have a nice holiday feast despite the pandemic, maybe a Zoom celebration or something like that. I do hope you enjoyed the rainbow forest painting. It certainly was a feel-good painting for myself. If you enjoyed it, please like, comment and share. Consider subscribing, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!